Today, class, we're going to be working on this still life. This is actually a photograph of the still life. You'll see in my demonstration here when I use a black and white photograph quite a bit. This is a color photograph, and you might want to use this photograph from your computer. I think the values are more accurate. The photocopies just don't do justice to all the different values. It's really hard to even see the handle with the photocopy. And what we're going to be doing today is just the contour line drawing of this still life. We're not going to be adding any shading. That's actually going to come second. I start off with an axis line for the picture because the picture is relatively symmetric, and that kind of helps me make sure that I don't get the picture crooked. When you can see, this is the photograph that I'm talking about. It's fine for laying out the parts of the still life, but as far as the shading, I want to refer to the color photograph on my computer. Now that I have the axis line down, I'm going to draw each side, and what this axis line does is allows me to keep it equal on both sides, since it is from about the handle down symmetric. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in the bottom. Now that bottom line is going to curve down. I'll be doing that in just a minute. But I'll do a comparative measurement, and basically what I do there is I check the bottom per the width per the height. Doing the top of the picture, I can tell you after I did this, I had to go back and correct it because I did get it too tall. That's why you want to keep these contour lines pretty light. You don't want to get them too dark. Let's take a look at the still life in color again. You want to make a reference to this copy as much as possible. Too many times when people are drawing, they do not make reference to their photocopy. Now I'm going to go ahead and start on the pear. When you saw me pointing on the photocopy, I was just basically determining where on the picture these two objects intersect. That will help me get pretty accurate proportions. In the bottom, it actually comes out just a little bit near the bottom and overlaps it. It overlaps the picture. One thing or a pointer that I can give you guys as far as drawing a pear is, especially this one, and it's foreshortened, which means that it's kind of pointing towards us. So it isn't a side view, and it isn't a frontal view, but it's a 3/4 view. One of the things that I will do is I'll actually draw a full circle. Even though this is not a circle, you can see that flat spot on the top. It will help us get the basic shape of the pear. And then I can come in, and again, I'm drawing really, really light because I can tell you I had to make adjustments on this pear. We need a little music in the background. Okay, what I'm going to be looking at now are the 4 grapes that are right above the pear. And what I'm looking at are circles of various sizes. I want to make reference to where these intersect with the pear and with the picture. This will also help me be able to draw accurate. Have a little bit of overlap from this one grape to the other. A common mistake that students make in drawing the grapes is they just draw a whole bunch of circles and they don't actually draw the number of grapes that are represented there. You'll see that I'll count them at the end here. More overlap again. Check where they are intersecting other objects. Put a very, very light line into where the stem is. We're not worried about too much detail with that. We're just trying to get the basic shape of the line down. We're going to be looking at the top part with the different grapes. And again, you want to count them and even run your circle over your photocopy just to get a feeling for the size of the grapes. Check where they intersect the picture. Also, notice the distance from there to there. This is where I made a mistake. I drew that first grape on, and if you notice the distance between the two grapes, it was too much. I actually drew that too high. So I shortened it, and then this time I want to pay attention a little bit more to that gap, that negative space between the top grape and the grape below it. So I did have to erase. It's a good thing I kept my lines light. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the top part of the picture on. And again, I'm going to do that lightly, and it's kind of just sketched in there right now. I'm probably going to have to go back in and do some adjustments on it. So I'm just going to do it nice and light for now. Because for the main part, my focus is the grapes at the top of the picture. Paying attention to where they intersect with other objects and the size of the grapes, which is the largest, which is in the foreground, which is covered by another. Keep your lines light so when you erase, you won't be able to see it. Because you are going to make mistakes. You all make mistakes. That's what erasers are for. I made that one just kind of a odd shape. Really didn't like it too much. So I went in there and it was a little bit too big. So I went in there and made that correction. I don't particularly like using the pink eraser on the backside of my pencil, but I will use it for contour type drawings. But if it ever gets to the point where it starts to rub off and make the paper look a little pink, I'll stop using it and go back to one of my white erasers. Again, check for overlap. Feel that's a little bit solid, more solid there. As you can see, this process does take a while. Just put on some music and have some fun with it. This is the top grape. I want to note where they are intersecting the other grapes. I'll draw a full circle just so, for me, it's just easier drawing a full circle as opposed to drawing 7/8 of a circle, and then I'll go back in and I'll erase. It's trial and error. It takes a while. The main idea here is to, as you're moving along, check the gaps and spaces to make sure that they're lining up correctly. Now, one thing I'm going to do here is put the handle of my picture on, and notice what I was doing there. I was kind of marking where on the photocopy they attach to the handle and where they're going to intersect with the pear. I've actually even put a couple of very light, tiny dots there. Now, when you're doing this picture, you can actually see the side of the handle, and then on the underside of the handle, you can actually see the underside of the handle, and I'll show you what I'm going to do for that. This is the side of the handle right now. We can see the complete side, and then right in here we can see the underside of it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that line in, and once I shade it, you'll be able to really see the illusion of seeing the underside of that handle. And then on the top side, we can also see the top of the handle, just a tiny, tiny bit. Now we're going to take a look down here at the bottom of the grapes. The one in the foreground, we want to make note of where it is as far as relationship to the bottom of that picture. Maybe make a couple of dots to where they intersect. And I also want to check the width. I put my first grape down, and what I'm doing is I'm basically comparing that first grape to the width of the second. You can tell the one in the background is a little bit smaller, so therefore I'm using one in relationship to another. I'm ready to put the other grapes in. Again, I want to note their relationships as far as if one is bigger than the other, if one is overlapping another. Keeping my lines light because I'm full of mistakes, so I'm sure I'm going to make a few more here along the way. I made note too of where that one grape is going to intersect with the side of my pitcher. Now, as far as the stems, just like I did with the other one, I'm just doing a real light, thin line. Here I am counting off the grapes, making sure that I have enough, that I have them all in there. And you should do this as well. I have had students just draw a whole bunch of circles and not really place them and not really draw them large enough. And then when they have to shade 30 grapes as opposed to, I believe there's 12 or 13 of them. So make sure that you check these all out, check the numbers out. At the end here, just kind of come around and do any details that you might see that are a little bit off or a little askew. You're going to make adjustments as you're shading as well, but this is our last step before we begin shading. And I mentioned this before, I really needed to, I knew I was going to have to come up and finish the tip of this pitcher, and so at this point, that's what I'm kind of doing. And that just about does it for the contour drawing of this still life. Again, you're looking at a still life with a pear and a number of grapes. Use the photo from your computer as a reference as opposed to a photocopy. As you can see, that drawing there took me probably about 20 to 30 minutes to do. So this still life is probably going to take you around 3 class periods to do. The shading is going to probably be 2 class periods, at least, possibly more. Okay, guys, this can be a challenge, but also be very rewarding. You just got to stay focused and listen to some of the advice that I gave you. It's pretty good advice. Been doing this for a while, so hopefully you have fun with it. Have a good day.